CardiacKrock, jalapeno, cilantro, and almond crusted salmon with a beet green quinoa. Super healthy, super pretty, and it tastes delicious. And remember, you don't have to sacrifice flavor when it comes to eating healthy. Oh, it smells so good. CardiacKrock, jalapeno, cilantro, and almond crusted salmon with a beet green quinoa. Super healthy, super pretty, and it tastes delicious. I'm making a CardiacKrock jalapeno, almond, cilantro crusted salmon with a beet leaf quinoa. You don't have to sacrifice flavor when it comes to eating healthy. Take a look at my ingredients. Salmon, it's a superfood rich in omega-3s. Olive oil, rich in heart healthy antioxidants. Almonds, they contain fiber, healthy fats, and help lower bad cholesterol. Cilantro promotes heart health and can help lower blood pressure too. Jalapenos, low in calories, good source of fiber, vitamin C, vitamin B6. Quinoa, loaded with vitamins and minerals and contains more fiber and protein than most other grains. Cherry tomatoes, adding tomatoes to the diet has a positive effect on blood lipid levels. Beets, really good for the blood, a superfood and really helpful in lowering blood pressure too. You don't always see them with the leaves on. You know why? Because most of the stores say that the customers just don't know what to do with the leaves. But in reality, the leaves have more antioxidants than the beets themselves. They're much, much healthier. So I'm going to make a quinoa that has these beautiful, soft beet leaves just shredded and folded through the quinoa. And then I'll grate some beets into the quinoa too. Talk about super healthy. I'm going to start by cooking my quinoa. I do 1 cup of quinoa and then 2 cups of chicken broth. You can use vegetable broth, you can use water if you want to, but a delicate chicken broth gives it some nice flavor. Put that on to boil, bring it to the boil, and once it comes to the boil, turn it down so it simmers and put a lid on. And let it simmer until it all fluffs up and absorbs all of that chicken broth. Quinoa is an ancient South American superfood and it's only been popular in the last few years, but it's so easy to make. It has so much flavor in there and it just makes the most perfect side to something like a healthy salmon or chicken dish. While the quinoa's cooking, I'm going to finely dice some onion. And that goes into a little sauté pan with some olive oil. Also in there, a little garlic. And my beet greens. You can eat everything on the beets, either stalks, everything. But I'm just going to take a chop here and with my greens, bunch them up tight and then just do a nice fine chiffonade. Nice thin slices there, look. And these will just wilt right down and taste absolutely gorgeous. Now, you've got to rinse them several times before you put them into the sauté pan. So those, they smell beautiful as well. And then over here, I'm going to take a beet, and this one I can just grate into my pan. I sauté the onions and the garlic until they just get nice and soft and translucent, and then a pinch of salt, just a tiny pinch. I let that cook until everything softens and is really nice. And then I've got my beet greens. These are the most tender, soft, juiciest green leaves I think you can ever add to a dish. I've also peeled one of my beets and I'm going to grate it into my quinoa, because it'll give us a nice color in there too. The beet leaves only need about a minute just stirring into the onion and the garlic, and they really start to soften and wilt down. Then I'm going to take my raw beet and just grate a little into the beet greens. Once the greens are softened and wilted, I can turn that off and now check on my quinoa. The quinoa has cooked, absorbed all of that chicken broth, and I'm going to put that into my beet green mix. Give that a stir and then set it to one side and let it rest. You can make this the day before if you want to and refrigerate it, and then just reheat it when you come to need it. Next, I'm going to make the topping for my salmon, and it's like a pesto. I'm going to use jalapeno, cilantro, my almonds, a little olive oil, and some lime juice in there too. When we start using things like cilantro and lime juice, we can cut back on the seasoning, on the salt, and so that's going to give us more flavor with the cilantro, with the lime juice. It sort of really gets those juices salivating. Now when we think of pesto, we normally think of basil and pine nuts and parmesan, but ours is going to be a little twist on that, and it'll really give a zing to this salmon. So I start off with my jalapeno, and I'm not using all of it. You can use it to taste, and obviously I don't want the membranes in there and the seeds, because they're going to give a really strong flavor. So a little jalapeno in there, and I'll put that into my little blender. Next, I'm going to tear some cilantro that's been washed and drop that in there too. A little lime juice, a little olive oil, and some almonds, because they're going to give a nice texture. And I'm just going to pulse those. Now you will have to play around with them a little bit and possibly add a little bit more olive oil until it all comes together. Keep working with it until it's all blended together. Then, oh, it smells amazing. We can take this into our bowl. Look how vibrant and green that is, and look how healthy that is too, and no additives and no preservatives, just pure, natural, healthy goodness. You can double this recipe and put it in the refrigerator and spoon it over some chicken breast. You can actually stir it into a salad. There's so many uses for this beautiful combination of healthy nuts, jalapeno, cilantro, and olive oil. Now, next thing is the salmon. I like to take the salmon with the skin on, and we'll take this, and I've got a center cut piece too. Don't buy the tail end piece because it's too thin and it cooks at an uneven temperature and it'll be really dry. And don't buy from the head too, because that's going to have all the bones in. So a nice center cut piece. And another tip is actually to place this onto, skin side down, onto some aluminum foil. Because when we come to lift this off, the aluminum foil sticks to the skin. and makes cleanup so much easier. Next, I'm going to spoon a little of my jalapeno cilantro pesto over the top of the salmon. And then just lightly spread it. It's going to go into the oven, 400 degrees, for about 12 minutes if you like it pink inside, or 15 minutes if you prefer it a little bit more well done. I've also taken my little cherry tomatoes, drizzled with a little olive oil, and they're going to go in at the same time, just to soften. Once the salmon's cooked, all those gorgeous flavors have baked into those salmon fillets. And now we can carefully just run the knife, hold the aluminum and run the spatula underneath the fish carefully. And you can see there, the skin stays stuck to the aluminum and you can just wrap that and throw it away. So, a little bit of my gorgeous quinoa with the beet in there on the plate. And I'm going to take a little bit of my vibrant pesto and just put that on the plate too. This will give it a really nice zing when you're eating the salmon. Now I can lift my salmon onto the quinoa. And finally finish with my roasted tomatoes. CardiacKrock, jalapeno, cilantro, and almond crusted salmon with a beet green quinoa. Super healthy, super pretty, and it tastes delicious. And remember, you don't have to sacrifice flavor when it comes to eating healthy. Oh, it smells so good.